Is the whitelist meta dead? In today's video, that's what we're going to talk about. Now, first up, there are chapters down below so you can fast forward to the sections that you want, because I'm going to touch on a little bit of the history of the whitelist meta, whitelisting, why it was created, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to skip over all that, just go down there, go to the section that you want, check that out, and that'll kind of help you out. Now look, I don't like the current way that whitelisting is done and what's actually happening, especially in a bear market. Now, full disclosure, I actually benefit from whitelisting because I'm a quote unquote influencer. I end up getting spots for things. I've got an alpha group, shameless plug, link down below, where I get spots for the group. So I benefit from it. So it's one of those things where I'm coming at it from a love for the space, the NFT, the Web3 space, and ways that I kind of think it could be improved and kind of done a little bit better. So, why was whitelisting created and why was it so effective? The reason it was created was to give people a chance that were kind of day one OG supporters of the project, the ability to actually mint the project so they wouldn't have to kind of get up at a particular time, compete in a gas war. They would essentially be given a chance to get the NFT to support the project that they wanted to support before everyone else. So the reason it was created was to give that support to those original supporters and ensure that they could actually get their hands on the project that they had wanted and kind of essentially championed from day one. Now, this then soon evolved and became the commodity because people realized that if you were the first person to actually mint a project, you had the chance to sort of buy it and sell it before anyone else in the public. So you were able to get in at a lower price, excluding all the gas wars, and then actually be able to make a flip. And then what projects started to do is start to realize that this was a great way to kind of juice up the numbers. So they would kind of go, hey, we will give you a whitelist if you invite 5 people or 10 people to the Discord, if you get to a level 5 or you get to a level 10. And it became a way to dangle a carrot to get people to sort of invite people in, talk about the project, and incentivize the promotion of that project, which would then help them get to bigger numbers on Twitter, bigger numbers in Discord, and then drive hype and royalties when the project actually went to launch because people were working hard to then essentially get that whitelist by drawing in other people. Then in November and December, you started to see some Twitter whitelist giveaways, and you saw Psychedelics Anonymous and More Than Gamers go very hard on whitelist games and giving away a lot of whitelist spots on Twitter. And what this meant is it meant that the projects could show the traction that they were getting in a public arena, not having to kind of look at numbers on a Discord, but just see the followers on Twitter and kind of be drawn in that way, not having to just invite people and see people being invited into a Discord, which was crazy to see the engagement and the run-up that had happened there. And then at this point, this kind of tipped over the edge, and then there was the realization that whitelisting giveaways on Twitter would actually drive the top of the funnel awareness and attention for the project. Now, projects started to see that if you did whitelist giveaways on Twitter, you could essentially juice the numbers and jack up the popularity from an outsider perspective of the project. High Twitter numbers, high engagement because of the retweets, likes, things like that. And it then meant that anyone that did get the whitelist was almost guaranteed to make a big, crazy profit because we were in this bull territory. People were making money hand over fist. So projects then started to adapt this as a part of what their marketing strategy was, and this was almost the very first thing that a project went to. They didn't really care about crazy promos, they didn't care about roadmaps, they didn't really care about anything else. All they cared about was doing some whitelist giveaways on Twitter to then draw up a lot of attention, to then use that as a way to kind of move forward when it came down to the project. Now, this is where the modern day business model comes in of whitelist giveaways and collaborations. Every project will have a collaborations manager. What they will do is they will go out to projects, to influencers, to alpha groups, and essentially strike up deals. These deals will be, hey, can you run a Twitter giveaway, which would then help boost up their profile and their activity in return for some whitelist spots for that project or alpha group or influencer or things like that. What this then meant is that this collab manager could then have their hands in a whole bunch of different pies, metaphorically, and then draw this artificial attention into the project, which would then mean that projects would then get sort of 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 100,000 followers seemingly overnight, and a lot of engagement and a lot of attention, which then meant that everyone that was receiving these whitelist spots was thinking that they would be in a very good project to then essentially make some flips. Now, this is where it got very lucrative for these projects and alpha groups. What they would do is they would secure, say, 100 spots. The mint price might be a 0.1 ETH, and in the middle of a bull run, it was easy for these to run to a 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. What would then happen is a project would essentially secure these spots, and when it ran up, each of these holders would then end up making sort of a 0.4 ETH profit. This means that projects and alpha groups were essentially printing money for their holders, which then meant that their values went up. And because these were flippers, the projects were also, first off, minting out because they had that initial run and support, but they're also doing a lot of money on the royalties. But this can only continue to be lucrative and sustainable if you have new entrants to the market that are willing to buy off the secondary market. And everyone got so used to whitelisting the fact that they wouldn't mint anything on public, and it just went straight to a whitelist. Now look, why is the system broken? Whitelisting was to reward those early adopters of the project, so they didn't have to pay the exorbitant gas fees or miss the mint. But now it's gone into the hands predominantly of those who are not invested in the project at all. They don't even know the crucial details on the project. All they know is the supply, price, and the mint date, and that's how they operate and move, and they only really move into these projects if there is volume and an arbitrage on a quick flip. And what this means is it's essentially taking the power and the main reason for the whitelist, which is to give it to those core holders, take them away for that artificial awareness and pump in the beginning, which flips the dynamic, which means that projects aren't actually getting the NFTs into the hands of the holders, you're getting them into the hands of the flippers, which doesn't work when you're in a contracting market. Now look, this may sound harsh and this may look negatively upon me, but when I'm getting something like 5, 6, 7 spots a week, the people in my alpha group and the people in other alpha groups and projects as well, they are loading up and they're stashing so many different whitelist spots away to just take advantage of the ones that can make them quick money. They don't know the roadmap, they don't know the team members, they don't actually know the inner workings of the project. They just know the supply, price, and mint date, and that's what they're using to determine if they should move into the project, which means that you're actively taking all of these spots out of people that may actually care about the project and actually putting them into the speculators' hands. Now look, there's nothing wrong with trying to play the game, make some profits and do this, but when everyone is playing that same game and just trying to sort of make profits and flip on each other, it gets very hard to actually get these sustainable runs, which then turns the whole whitelisting charade and performance a little bit of a waste of time. So what can be changed? Well, I think it can come down to actually going back to the original concept of whitelisting and let the people in the community that actually want to get their hands on that project to actually give them the power to mint. When you have a look at something like Utes, what they're doing is they have an application and they've got a very interesting marketing tactic where they're actually kind of releasing out who is in the scholarship of Utes, and people are kind of waiting for their name to come up. It's almost like a little bit of a lottery. They need to put in an application. They get excited for it. And this is where the team can actually curate the list a little bit and ensure that the people that are getting in may actually be following the appropriate accounts and actually are dedicated to that project itself, which is good because it means that a solid core base are going to mint that project no matter what. They don't care about the flip, they just care about being in that project, which means you are going to have that initial run in the first place of people willing to mint out the project. The other thing that you can do is something like what Invisible Friends did, where if you held multiple of the random character collectives, which is what Invisible Friends was under, they were given a whitelist spot for Invisible Friends. The idea of then having companion collections or sister projects or other things like that allow people to be within the ecosystem that they like and support, which then means that they've got access to something else in the future, which then means that those that are the original supporters that have been there from day one are able to actually move in on that project and actually be whitelisted, and it's not going to someone external. Now, a thought that I have had and something that I'm quite bullish on and I would like to see is something like a pledge mint, something like a Kickstarter, where people are able to put their hard-earned cash down and essentially have that spot reserved. This would then mean that you're weeding out all of those speculators, because if you were given a whitelist spot for something and you were given the ability to buy it at a discount right now, would you do it? If you were to put your money down now, that means that you had conviction you were going to move in on the project. If you didn't want to put your money down because you wanted to see how it minted out and performed, that would mean that you weren't going to be a first mover or have conviction on that project. And what this would mean is, it means that by having this kind of pledgement, it means that those that find the projects early, those that have conviction, those that have done the research, could actually move in and buy into a project beforehand and be rewarded by actually being a first mover and not just someone that follows the hype. Now, I think that that would be a very interesting way to move about. It would also give the team a little bit of confidence, because they would know how many people have essentially pledged, and it would give those sitting on the sidelines a little bit of FOMO, knowing that the follow account or the Discord account is real. Because if there are 100,000 people on Twitter and 60,000 people on Discord, but only 3 people have done the pledgement, you can tell that the numbers have been juiced, the numbers that have been gassed, and you can determine that you have actually been part of a deceptive play within that project, trying to drum up the attention. Now look, there is one caveat to this, and this is the fact that people will say and do whatever they can to ensure that they do get whitelisted for a project, to have it up their sleeve to make a flip. Everyone is acting in their own self-interest, and if their self-interest is to make a flip and make a profit, then they will say what they can and do what they need to do to actually secure that spot. So this isn't 100% foolproof. That is a big caveat that is in play, because you may go through all of the motions to actually go through all of this, but everyone is just saying the right thing to just sit on the sidelines and actually ensure that they kind of get whitelisted so they can actually take that as an opportunity. Now look, I think whitelisting is dead to 99% of projects, and I think that 99% of projects should just go straight to public. Now I know that I'll have people saying, yeah, but what about botting? What about gas wars? Botting and gas wars don't matter if a project isn't desirable, if it isn't exciting, if people don't actually want to mint it. If a project goes to a whitelist or goes to a public sale and it doesn't mint out, then botting and gas wars won't matter, because people aren't attracted to that project. And what it's doing is it's just hurting the project itself. By whitelisting, you're giving the ability for people to sit on the sideline and make a decision later after the fact. By going straight to public, you're essentially giving everyone a chance at the same time to actually move in on the project. And if a project is gaining enough hype and attention to actually justify a whitelist, then they can actually kind of go through that process and see if it actually does work out. And they can use a few other tactics to see if it does actually justify having a whitelist. Because by going straight to public and just removing the whitelist that we currently have, you're then going to get a true indication of people that are willing to move into a project. I have been in projects, I've seen what has happened. I've spoken to founders. People will work really hard, and as soon as they get that whitelist, they dip from the server. They don't care, because that's all they wanted. They just wanted to secure that whitelist. The whitelist is the currency that they're working for. And if you can go straight to public or work out a different mechanism, then you will get a true indication of the people that are actually keen on the project. And if you are moving in on that project that you like, you can actually see if the activity is good and worth it, and if it's just people that are trying to farm whitelist to make a flip and essentially dump on you. So those are the reasons why I think whitelisting is dead, and how I would like that to change within the space. Hopefully you found value in this video. If you did, please consider hitting up that subscribe button, and while you're down there, also hit the like button. As always, it's been a pleasure having you with me. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.